Hey, guys, welcome back to my channel. This is a story of what if Naruto trained seriously, after the Sasuke retrieval arc. After Naruto and Sasuke's fight at the Valley of the End, Naruto has an epiphany, and everything he thought about changes. Now during his training trip with Jiraya, the blonde trains like crazy, returning to the village, 2.5 years later, as a new shinobi. One who vows to protect the village even if it costs his life. However, those who knew his usual nature wished he didn't change. Before we start, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel, it means a lot to me, and check the description for the creator of this great fanfic. Now let's start the story. Author note: hello there and welcome to another chapter of regret. Last chapter, a lot of events took place. Uchiha Sasuke managed to escape from Orochimaru's clutches with the sole intent of seeking powerful opponents to face against and gain experience. Meanwhile, Naruto and Yugo had just delivered a letter to the Kazekage regarding the alliance between Konoha, Kumo and Sunagaku. Upon leaving the hidden village of Sand, Naruto and Yugo took their time in returning to the village. They ended up meeting with the old member of Naruto's team. After a fierce battle, going as far as forcing Sasuke to use the cursed seal second level and Naruto to use the fox's chakra, Naruto managed to rise successful. When they attempted to capture the traitorous Uchiha, Tobi appeared and took Sasuke away. Oh, I forgot to mention that prior to this, Tobi had appeared in Orochimaru's lair and killed the snake freak. There was no second Orochimaru coming out of Orochimaru's mouth, no snake human figure appearing out of nowhere, the man was dead by a single kunai. That's the beauty of the world created by Kishimoto, even if the man himself sometimes forgets it. No matter how powerful one shinobi becomes or how many measures he or she takes to further protect their lives, a small piece of piercing metal is and always will be more than enough to kill anyone. Now that the Tri-Alliance is forged, the battle against the organization will certainly escalate to a full-out assault. Oh, and before anyone asks, it won't be a fourth great ninja war or anything remotely close to Kishimoto's nonsense. Shinobi being treated like warriors in a full-front battlefront, it's just unnatural. Akatsuki consisted of less than 10 individuals, so to face them, the other side need to gather a group of high-level shinobi to face against them. Wonder who will be picked. Check it out. Chapter 19 Tri-Alliance's formation. Senju Tsunade had awakened this morning actually believing today would be a beautiful day. She had every reason to believe so, as the sky was clear of any clouds and the soothing wind was able to keep the village cool despite the excessive heat that bombarded Konoha this fine morning. On the way to her office, people stopped her to compliment her on her duties as Hokage. Overall, it would certainly be a nice day, a relaxing one in these troubled times, because of the threat generated by Akatsuki. Nothing could ever take away her happiness. That was before entering in her office and seeing that Naruto and Yugo had returned from their C-ranked mission on Sunagaku. Just by seeing the brat, she immediately became aware that while Naruto was alive and breathing, he would always give her a headache. After hearing the report, Tsunade shouldn't have been surprised. So let me get this straight, the pause to rub her forehead in a pathetic attempt to ease the painful headache was quite amusing. You two left Konoha to Sunagaku for a simple C-ranked mission. After delivering the scroll and receiving word of the Suna Council's approval of the alliance, you two came back to Konoha, only to conveniently, I might add, bump into Uchiha Sasuke, who had escaped from Orochimaru's clutches and decided to engage in a fierce battle involving cursed seals and the fox's chakra. Naruto and Yugo nodded, allowing the Hokage more time to process the rest of the mission. After Naruto was victorious, an Akatsuki member came and took Sasuke away before either of you could capture him. The Chunin and Anbu captain on vacation nodded again, before waiting as the Hokage finished rubbing her forehead for a while. She then lifted her head to see the Chunin she grew so fond of. There were indeed times when Tsunade wondered how her sensei managed to handle the boy. Let me ask you something, Naruto, and I hope you can give me a straight answer, because I'm pretty much baffled at this point. Naruto was surprised and a little scared of the woman in front of him. She still hadn't stopped massaging her forehead. How is it that every time you're assigned a C-ranked mission, something terribly bad happens that raises the mission specs to at least a ranked? I wonder if you are the one who looks for trouble or trouble somehow seeks you. Yugo and pretty much all hidden Anbu present in the Hokage's office would have laughed their asses off at the question if none of them knew how pissed off their leader could be when she started rubbing her forehead like that. Naruto, for his turn, couldn't help but offer an innocent smile at his Hokage. However, now that Tsunade raised a valid topic, Naruto began to wonder what the deal was here. Pretty sure that trouble is the one after me. You know that I wouldn't go after Sasuke. Tsunade sighed once more and looked at the two shinobi. Yes, I do know. The good thing is that neither of you are hurt. The alliance was accepted by Suna, so both the Kazekage and the Raikage will be arriving here in 1 week, as per the agreement. There will be no more missions assigned to you Naruto, seeing as you will take part in the meeting. I will be calling Sakura and Kakashi here to inform them of the latest developments concerning Sasuke. Despite the severe headache you caused me, I'd say you did one hell of a job putting that brat in his place. Naruto simply nodded, before Tsunade turned to her. Yugo, you are to report tomorrow to your Anbu team. The woman nodded, before both were dismissed for the time being, leaving Tsunade alone to ponder on things. I guess Sasuke wasn't that keen on Orochimaru taking his body huh? A slight miscalculation in your plans, Haim. The back wall of the office suddenly shimmered and Jiraya appeared with a serious visage. At least we are confident that our teammate won't be able to get his hands on Sasuke now that Akatsuki has him. In any case, I must prepare for when the cages arrive here in a week. Jiraiya nodded and was about to leave, when he remembered something about the snake Sanin. One last thing before I leave, there has been some rumors behind Sasuke's disappearance from Orochimaru's clutches. Though I hardly believe those to be true, I believe it's high time we took our time to assess its veracity. Tsunade stopped her paperwork and looked at the pervert with a keen eye. Today really wasn't a good day and her gut feeling told that it was about to become even worse. Upon ushering the pervert about the content of the rumors, she was surprised when the man's eyes had lost their focus for a brief moment, indicating something akin to grief. Words out there are that while Sasuke escaped, someone invaded Orochimaru's room and killed him. Tsunade's eyes widened as she processed the rumor. I still remain skeptical about it seeing how far that snake goes to protect himself from both human and nature attacks. However, I'll look into it and let you know if it's really true. Tsunade nodded, even though she was still busy processing everything. Who would be powerful enough to slip inside Orochimaru's lair and kill him so efficiently? As the woman issued Sakura and Kakashi for a meeting, Tsunade began to ponder on the possibility of someone like Orochimaru, an S-ranked shinobi, be killed without a huge and destructive battle behind it. Perhaps it was her instincts kicking, but she couldn't help but shake off the possibility that perhaps Orochimaru's demise was linked to what happened in Naruto and Yugao's altercation with Sasuke and the mysterious Akatsuki agent. Another question that now plagued the woman Hokage's mind was what Akatsuki could possibly want with Sasuke. As far as she was aware, they already have a pair of Sharingan in Itachi. Tsunade stopped her inner monologue when she heard Sakura entering her office. Kakashi no doubt was already waiting behind the window for his student to arrive. As soon as both Junin and Chunin were lined up in front of the Hokage, the woman released a sigh and began to explain about what happened. Kakashi, Sakura, I called you both here because of certain events that occurred with Uchiha Sasuke. Both members of Team 7 narrowed their eyes as Tsunade began to report everything. With Naruto after leaving their leader's office, Naruto and Yugo were casually walking amongst the streets of the village. Neither of them appeared in the mood for much, considering what happened on the way back from Sunagaku. Yugo wanted nothing more than a nice shower and to enjoy a quiet round of sake inside her home. When the Akatsuki appeared, the woman feared that they would take advantage of Naruto's fight and attempt to capture him. When the man left with Sasuke, the woman released her breath. She didn't even know that she was holding it. Turning to her boyfriend, his appearance appeared casual, almost aloof to the situation they had just walked away from. She could see in his eyes, though, that he was considering the situation carefully. It was clear that both needed to do something to shake their minds away from the outside world. Naruto, I think I'll head home and rest a bit. What about you? The blonde smiled tiredly at that. I think I'll head to Ikiraku's and have my usual ramen, but some relaxation is a good idea. Meet at your house in about an hour. His question was met with a gentle kiss on his right cheek, before Yugo left in a shunshin. It took close to 10 minutes, before the blonde Chunin began his usual ritual of ramen worshipping. Before that, he had apologized to both Teuchi and Ayame for not coming more often. Ayame only smiled at the boy, but her father kept his angry facade, before relenting and making another sequence of ramen bowls for their favorite customer. Half an hour later and with a full stomach, Naruto left the ramen stand and headed towards Yugao's apartment where he guessed the woman would be waiting with a bottle of sake. At Tsunade's office by the time the Hokage finished reporting what happened, she waited to see their reaction regarding Sasuke. It was indeed a lot to take in, so Tsunade just waited. She could see the look of regret in Kakashi's face, despite the man's ability of concealing his emotions to others. She could also see the look of hurt in Sakura's. Honestly, Tsunade wished the girl would let go of her academy crush. It just wasn't natural. The extent of their relationship was that of mere comrades. 5 seconds later, Kakashi's look was transformed into apparent boredom like he usually did. It was how the man coped, after all. No doubt, he will leave the office and head to the memorial stone afterward. Sakura took longer to recuperate, before looking at her mentor. So what will we do, Hokage-sama? About Sasuke I mean. Tsunade was already expecting said question and answered with a sigh, already expecting the backlash. Nothing, she didn't need to look up to see that Sakura was looking her incredulously. It is one thing when Sasuke was under Orochimaru's command, but now Akatsuki has him. They could be anywhere in the entire elemental nations. Even if we utilized our entire ninja force just to search for him, which we won't, we wouldn't be able to cover everywhere. Looking up and matching her student's fierce gaze, Tsunade finished her statement. You know this, Sakura. Sakura was considered by her mentor an outstanding medic nin and level-minded in most situations, but when Uchiha Sasuke was concerned, it seemed as if Sakura simply reverted to her academy days and worshipped the Uchiha. The Chunin bluntly asked to be dismissed and left the room, leaving Tsunade and Kakashi alone to converse. As to you Kakashi, I'll give a simple word of advice. Sarutobi-sensei had the same look on his face when Orochimaru was mentioned. It wasn't anyone's fault, but Sasuke's. Now, Kakashi, in 1 week's time, both the Raikage and the Kazekage will arrive in order to discuss our alliance towards the elimination of the Akatsuki. As one of Konoha's elite Junin as well as Naruto's sensei, you will be participating. Just to let you know. You are dismissed. Kakashi nodded and turned to leave towards the door, before he turned and addressed the Hokage about some misconception behind her words earlier. She noticed his mood changing rapidly. Like Orochimaru was for Sandaime-sama, Sasuke is my responsibility, Tsunade-sama. You'd feel the same burden had Shizune betrayed Konoha. Not waiting to hear a reply, Kakashi left in a shunshin, leaving Tsunade alone to ponder on the words spoken by the elite Junin. Bonds formed between master and student were hard to break, and indeed when a student defects, the master bore with the consequence. However, while Orochimaru was like a son to Sarutobi-sensei, Sasuke and Kakashi were student and master for little more than a year, perhaps even less. Shizune has been her apprentice for 20 years. Of course, if she betrayed the village, it would be her responsibility. Perhaps, Kakashi was thinking of someone else when he mentioned Sasuke. She had known Kakashi's teammate Uchiha Obito, since they were a part of the Yondaime Hokage's Genin team. She knew of the incident regarding Obito's death and how Kakashi's life deteriorated since then. It was a shame really that he couldn't let go of the past. But, then again, who was Tsunade to say anything about that? He stopped however by the door and turned slightly to the Hokage. With Sasuke after taking Uchiha Sasuke back to his hidden base of operations, the Akatsuki agent placed the young Uchiha's body on a wooden table as he proceeded to analyze the changes done to Sasuke by Orochimaru. Tobi was no alien to the experiments conducted by the snake in order to maximize a shinobi's strength, speed, chakra capacity amongst other aspects. After a quick inspection, it was clear that whatever Orochimaru had done to Sasuke wasn't visible. His body muscle was perfectly natural. With his Sharingan, Tobi could detect a great pool of chakra in Sasuke's, meaning that Orochimaru wanted his next body to have a vast wealth of energy at his disposal. Enhancement drugs were obvious uses, so Tobi discarded it. He was however immensely surprised to see a strange seal located on the Uchiha's chest, and it was glowing when Tobi focused chakra nearby. The man was even more surprised when a toxin was released from the seal, forcing Tobi to quickly summon his battle fan and force the toxin out of the cave. It was clear that the seal wasn't the snake's doing. Certainly, if Orochimaru was planning on taking over Sasuke's body, then he wouldn't place a seal that released such a dangerous toxin. He would be dead instantly. Someone was really concerned that Orochimaru might take over the Sharingan and took measures to prevent such a possibility. Immediately, Konoha came to mind. Tobi knew of a man inside the village's forces that could very well be capable of such schemes. Shimura Danzo was the leader of a dark branch in the Anbu forces and hidden mastermind behind many of the dark steps taken by the hidden village in the leaves. However, after much consideration, Tobi ruled Danzo out of the equation. While it could very well be his doing, Tobi knew the deal made between Danzo and Itachi before the day he massacred the Uchiha clan. If Danzo lifted a finger against Sasuke, Itachi would come out and reveal the truth. No, Danzo wasn't the author of the seal. Besides Konoha, Tobi couldn't think of any village who knew about Orochimaru and Sasuke. Another question that plagued Tobi's mind was how Orochimaru failed to see such a seal in his vessel. That meant that the caster was at least a master in the art of sealing, and coming from Konoha, Tobi's mind immediately went to the Yondaime Hokage and his expertise in using Fuinjutsu in close combat. Since the man was dead, Tobi moved on to either the Yondaime's master or his student Kakashi. As sensei of Uchiha Sasuke, Kakashi could very well be the one behind this, but as skilled as the son of Sakuma was, he was no match for Orochimaru. Jiraya, on the other hand, was as skilled as the snake and also considered a master in the art of sealing. A very interesting approach taken by the Gama Sanin, Tobi mused. Quite possibly the Yondaime Hokage was aware, if not even responsible, for the powerful toxin's creation. Tobi let out an amused laughter as he waited for Uchiha Sasuke to awaken from unconsciousness. While doing so, Tobi's mind returned to Sasuke and Naruto's fight yesterday. As usual, the boy surprised Tobi. He had already known Naruto to be skilled, as he was the one that defeated Deidara and Sasori. However, the amount of the fox's chakra used by Naruto against Sasuke was unheard of until now. Tobi knew of the fox chakra's toxic nature, as well as the fact that every time that Naruto attempted to use it, his judgment became clouded. While Tobi wished for Sasuke's defeat at Naruto's hands, he reasoned that Naruto's meteoric increase of skill was something to worry about in the future. He noticed that Sasuke was stirring from the table and moved closer to the younger Uchiha. The sooner Sasuke saw Tobi's outfit, he will make the connection and demand answers. Uchiha Sasuke, for his part, slowly opened his eyes as he saw the cave ceiling. He was immediately startled, as the last memory he had was fighting against the Tobi and losing. It was infuriating how Naruto was able to counter his every move. Everything Sasuke tried, Naruto had something to counter. Now he didn't know if he was in Konoha or not. If Naruto managed to defeat him, then he and that woman next to him would no doubt take him back to the village. So you are awake. The voice startled the young Uchiha as he turned and saw a man with orange mask. Like Tobi expected, Sasuke's eyes glanced his outfit briefly. Who are you and where am I? Who am I is a rather complicated question, and I don't feel like answering it right now. As to where you are, let's just say inside a cave somewhere in Fire Country. Sasuke snarled at the introduction, before feeling the pain in his muscles courtesy of a certain Konoha Chunin. That was quite a beating you received yesterday, Sasuke-kun. If it weren't for me taking you away, right now you'd be waking up in Konoha. Be glad that I have use for you. Otherwise you'd find yourself in the comfort of Konoha's finest interrogators. Tobi snorted in amusement as Sasuke snarled once more. He crossed his arms and casually took a seat on top of a medium-sized wooden box. Now that you've settled down somewhat, I'd like to get to know Itachi-kun's younger brother. As expected, Sasuke's eyes were ablaze in fury. His eyes, if possible, were burning the strange man's outfit, the same one that his curse of a brother wore. You will tell me where Itachi is, and you will tell me right now. Sasuke even activated his Sharingan and added killing intent, the likes of which Tobi remembered from Orochimaru. It seems you believe yourself to be in a position where you can demand anything. How amusing. Itachi did say you lacked proper manners. Tobi ignored Sasuke's angry outburst and cleared his throat a bit. Instead of telling you where Itachi is, no matter how much I really want to do that, believe me, I'll tell you what I believe you would like to ask Itachi himself. Aren't you curious, Sasuke-kun? Aren't you curious to know the reason Itachi killed your entire clan? Tobi could practically see the machinations in Sasuke's brain working to process everything. Before you naively say that he did everything just to test his skills, I will explain you the truth about Itachi's actions. It would be nice to know that Itachi had other reasons, right? That he wasn't the ruthless killer you always thought he was. If it was one thing Tobi most enjoyed was to mess with people's minds. He loved seeing the confused expressions on the victim's face. How would you know about what happened and why would you tell me? Tobi smirked behind his mask. So the Uchiha had some brains after all. It would be too easy if he didn't. First of all, he told me, and as to why I would tell you, it's because I feel like it. If you don't believe me, then you can use your Sharingan. You can tell when a person is lying, can't you? Trust me, Sasuke-kun, I do not have any reason to lie to you. I merely wish to impress upon you the actual truth of what happened. After that, you can do whatever you want. If you still want to kill him, I'll tell you where he is. Sasuke looked at the man for a while, before briefly nodding. Tobi smirked. The boy was curious about it and Tobi wouldn't even think of omitting anything. With that, he began to explain everything to Sasuke about the truth behind the event known as the Uchiha clan massacre. Author note. I won't bother writing the event. It's the same as canon. As Tobi explained the actual truth of what happened back then, Sasuke's red Sharingan eyes were widening considerably. It was practically mandatory for a shinobi to doubt information coming from an unknown source, no matter how factual it seemed. If there was one time that the young Uchiha cursed the existence of the Sharingan, it was now. He wanted desperately not to believe any word this stranger in front of him was saying. However, while the accursed Dujutsu was the clan's pride, now Sasuke would give anything not to have it, because he couldn't see any deceit coming from the man's words. If the Sharingan hadn't spotted deceit, then it was the truth. Uchiha Itachi, the man Sasuke despised more than anything and also whose existence Sasuke was dedicated to erase, massacred the entire Uchiha clan, under orders from the higher-ups of Konoha. It was simply inconceivable. Tobi could see that Sasuke was still in denial, hence his plan was not done yet. Uchiha Itachi loved his village, clearly more than the clan. So he acted as a double agent for the Hokage in order to prevent a bloody civil war that was sure to occur had it not been for Itachi's actions. Thus, he was forced by the hidden village in the leaves to massacre his own family in order to save the entire village. After he acted in the village's name, he has become a missing nin, hunted for doing nothing but following the Hokage's orders. By now, Sasuke's body was trembling. His mind was a mess trying to process the information of Itachi, the Uchiha Itachi, his brother, the one who killed his entire family just to test his capabilities, was actually forced to do this. Sasuke didn't even register 2 waterfalls falling without restrictions from his eyes. Suddenly, all repressed memories of that fateful day appeared and Sasuke remembered that after Itachi stated the reasons for doing what he did, Sasuke went after Itachi throwing kunai at him screaming bloody murder. When Itachi merely deflected the kunai with his ninjutsu, Sasuke could see that Itachi was crying on that night. Now that the young Uchiha knew of what really happened, that Itachi did what he did under specific orders, he wondered how his older brother must have felt that day. It was the first and last time that Sasuke saw his older brother shed tears like that. By now, Sasuke was crying uncontrollably and his body was shaking. So unaware was the Uchiha of his own reflection that he haven't noticed the different design in his Sharingan, much to Toba's silent amusement. 1 week later. When the sun rose in Konoha, the village was in a buzz as shinobi were seen on the rooftops running left and right, north and south, in order to ensure that everything was in order for today's events. In a couple of hours, both the current Kazekage and the current Raikage would step inside the hidden village in the leaves, followed by their bodyguards as well as their choices for the group that will be tasked with facing the Akatsuki and defeating them once and for all. However, despite such an unprecedented event consisted of Kumogakure aligning with Konoha, Tsunade wouldn't be the Godime Hokage if her village was caught by surprise by Kumogakure, using this alliance in order to invade the village. Doing so otherwise would be a complete disregard to the events in the past, and Tsunade was far too experienced to believe in simple messages. If the alliance was legit, then the Raikage wouldn't feel something is amiss with the heavy security. The man respected strength above all else. The village prepared a very beautiful, if not heavily oppressive, room for the meeting to take place. It was located at the sublevel of the Hokage's administrative building and it was designed for meetings held by Konoha and dignitaries from all over the elemental nations. The walls were made with special dark wood extracted from the lands where the Senju compound was located. The floor was 100% marble and was supporting a nice round mahogany-made table with enough seats for the cages. Normally, the room could support a much bigger table, however the situation didn't call for it. The bodyguards needed to be close to their leader, but far away from the other cages, just in case one wanted to act rashly because of a grudge. Tsunade wasn't worried, though, because the room was packed with chakra suppression seals as well as filled with Anbu personnel in the next door just in case. She took one of the seats available and remained there with her eyes closed and arms crossed as she waited for her fellow cages to arrive. Directly behind her, were Jiraya, Guy, Kakashi, Nara Shikaku and the village's Jinchuriki, Naruto. Kakashi was busy reading his little orange book while ignoring Guy's relentless attempt of settling their battle score with a game of rock paper or scissors. Shikaku was called in the meeting to be the strategist, but right now he was busy sleeping. Jiraiya, for his part, was observing his apprentice's unusual behavior. Surely the blonde wasn't as hyperactive as he was before the training trip, but the last time he has seen Naruto like this was at the beginning of the training trip when Naruto was blaming himself for not being able to stop Uchiha Sasuke from fleeing the village. Quickly approaching the blonde, Jiraiya landed a hand on Naruto's shoulder, making the Chunin look at his teacher with a perplexed expression on his face. Jiraiya was smirking. Is everything alright there, kiddo? Naruto took a couple of seconds to answer, but nodded nonetheless. Yeah, just that I don't think I should be here. This meeting involves cages and elite Junin only, I'm a Chunin. Jiraiya frowned at that but smirked once more. Just a Chunin you may be, but you were not only able to defeat 2 Akatsuki members, but also managed to win against the Hachibi Jinchuriki, who was rumored to be the perfect Jinchuriki by fully mastering his Biju. Naruto still remained contemplative despite hearing his achievements. You shouldn't sell yourself short, Naruto. Besides, this meeting isn't limited to rank, but one's strength and skill to face an S-ranked criminal. Without the Kyuubi's chakra, you are considered a ranked already. Naruto nodded at the man with a smile on his face, despite knowing that the only reason he had managed to defeat Kurabi was because the man severely underestimated him. However, he was completely caught by surprise when Jiraiya resumed the conversation. When the meeting is over, meet me at the top of this building. I believe it's time for you to learn how to fully use the fox's chakra. At this, everyone in the room stopped and looked at the conversation. Tsunade merely smirked at this, since she and Pervert had already discussed this prior to the meeting. If Naruto wished to face S-ranked criminals, he would need to be stronger than he was already. What do you mean fully use the fox's chakra? I thought I was already doing so progressively. By now, Naruto could use full 3 taels worth of chakra without losing his mind. Jiraiya, though, smirked and placed another hand on Naruto's shoulder. The seal crafted by the Yondaime Hokage indeed allows the fox's chakra to mingle with your own over time, increasing your chakra capacity and your chakra coils. However, what is inside you right now is merely half of the fox's chakra. Like he expected, the blonde's eyes almost left its sockets, but he continued. The other half is safely guarded by a complex seal also designed by the Yondaime. He entrusted it to me and the toads to keep until it was time for you to fully use it. Trust me, when we're done, there won't be much in this world that will be able to face you. Everyone in the room was smiling at the blonde Chunin as he nodded at Jiraiya with a smile on his face. Konoha's gates. At this exact time, 9 individuals were seen crossing the huge gates of Konohagakure. Full squads of Anbu were watching their every move from the shadows, just in case anyone tries anything. The faces they recognized were both from the Raikage and the Kazekage as they walked side by side. Behind the Raikage, the Anbu personnel immediately recognized Kumo's 2 Jinchuriki ni Yugito and Kurabi. If these 2 so wished to release their beasts in the middle of the village, they could cause a great load of damage instantly. Close by them, 2 more Kumo nins were seen. The first one had dark skin and had white hair like the Raikage. He was using a white Junin vest and loose back pants. He carried a bored expression similar to Kakashi's. The most experienced Anbu managed to distinguish a very peculiar tattoo on his left shoulder, that once belonged to the Sandaime Raikage, meaning that the man knew how to use the previous cage's black lightning techniques. The second and last Kumo nin of the group was a Kunoichi. She had the same style of black pants but her Junin vest was red instead of white. The male Anbu immediately felt the need to whistle at her nice figure followed by her beautiful and long red hair that was easily reaching her legs. It was hard to see because of the long hair, but they could see the 2 scabbards strapped on her back. All in all, besides the Yondaime Raikage, Kumo had brought 2 Jinchuriki and 2 elite Junin. These group alone could provide Konoha one nasty headache. The Kazekage's group was by no means less impressive as Gaara, the Kazekage, was also a Jinchuriki. They also recognized Sun as elite Junin Baki, one of the involved in the Suna sound invasion that occurred 4 years ago. Behind Baki, 2 more Suna nin followed. One of them was a Kunoichi, beautiful as well, with long black hair. She wore a black kimono strapped by a red bow. Strapped on her back, were 2 medium-sized metal-made battle fans. By her side, was a man that was entirely covered by a large sand-color robe from head to toe. Because of his choice in outfit, none of the Anbu personnel managed to get a good look on the guy. The two groups stopped soon in front of a platoon of 9 Anbu with Yamato being the leader. Greetings Kage Dono, Reikage Dono, I'll be responsible for taking you where Hokage-sama is waiting. Please follow me. Both cages nodded and briefly looked at the squads of Anbu following them from the roof, blending in the shadows. Gaara wasn't fazed by this, since he knew that it was mostly because of Kumo's presence inside the hidden village in the leaves. The Reikage, though, only smirked. It was only prudent, in his opinion. The man would be disappointed if the Hokage simply took his word for it and not be prepared for surprises. Konoha hadn't earned its reputation in the past as strongest to the hidden villages out of luck after all. As they passed, the citizens were giving them weary looks. It took a total of 10 minutes for everyone to reach the place of destination, the Hokage's office building. As soon as Yamato opened the door to the meeting, the ones inside the room turned their heads towards the new arrivals and quickly greeted them. Naruto quickly nodded towards his fellow Jinchuriki, being the only ones of the group that he knew so far. Each group settled to one of the 2 available seats in the table. The cages placed their respective hats on top of the table, before taking a seat. The bodyguards took place behind their respective leaders. Greetings Kage Dono, Reikage Dono. Welcome to Konohagakure. Both leaders nodded. The Reikage cleared his throat, calling all the attention in the room. Greetings Hokage Dono. Since Kumo was the one who proposed this alliance, I feel it's best if I begin. First of all, I'd like to extend an appreciation towards Konoha for bringing forward the information about the Akatsuki. Despite being humiliated that my stupid brother lost to the Kyuubi Jinchuriki because of his idiocy, if it wasn't for your presence, Yugito would be captured by them. I'd never imagined seeing Kakuzu from Waterfall. Tsunade nodded, clearly satisfied knowing that when Kakashi came with the information, the Reikage, acted all proudly, refused at first. Even if it wasn't Konoha's intention, their assignment managed to indirectly save Yugito, the Nibi Jinchuriki who was standing behind the Reikage. Now, as I recalled from the alliance proposal, each cage were to choose 4 elite shinobi to form a specialized group against the Akatsuki. With that being said, I'd like to begin by presenting you the ones I've chosen. Before you proceed, Reikage Dono, allow me to introduce Konoha's chief of strategy, Nara Shikaku. He will be here to aid us in how to deal with the organization. The Reikage nodded at the grown Shikamaru like. Nara Shikaku, member of Konoha's famous Ino Shika Cho formation and one great pain in the ass to deal with. Shikaku merely smirked at the compliment. It's an honor to be here, Kage Dono, Reikage Dono and Hokage Dono. With that out of the way, the Reikage began announcing his group of 4 indications. First one of the group is named Darui, one of my elite Junin, master of water and lightning techniques. He possesses the Rantan, storm-released Kekkei Genkei, thus able to mix water and lightning techniques into one. Besides that, he is a sword fighter. After his presentation, the elite Junin in question stepped forward and bowed in respect to the other present. Naruto saw the bored expression on this man's face and couldn't help but see his Junin sensei Kakashi. They both looked like they would fall asleep any time now. At least, with Shikamaru was different. He was asleep on occasions. He saw Shikaku busy studying Darui's info brought by the Reikage, while doing cross-references with the ones he already had of the ninjas from Konoha. Shikaku's job right now was to form 3 groups of 4 and elect the leader of the alliance. Second one of the group and last of the non-Jinchuriki is Niyugan, elite Junin and Yugito's older sister. Also a swordswoman like Darui and master of fire and earth techniques, she also possesses an elemental Kekkei Genkei called Yuden, lava release. After introducing yet another Kekkei Genkei, the people in the room figured that the man enjoyed flaunting about the shinobi of his village. Naruto, though, was interested in seeing if he would be able to mix his elements wind and water. I'll spare the need for introducing both Yugito and Kurabi, because of their known abilities. Naruto could have sworn the man looked at him for a second there but kept quiet about it. Shikaku had already received the files of the Jinchuriki based on Konoha's own information, hence he didn't need introductions. The Hachibi Jinchuriki looked like he wanted to give his own introduction, but one look from the Reikage convinced him otherwise. Seeing as the Reikage's introduction was finished, Gaara cleared his throat and started with the ones he brought to form the group. From Suna, I've chosen my sensei Baki, who I believe Konoha's file has enough info for me to waste valuable time introducing. Behind Baki, these are Kazetake and Jukas, both elite Junins of Sunagakure. Before Gaara could continue, the atmosphere in the room shifted and everyone turned to look at the pissed-off Raikage. He was looking at Kozetsukai with enough hatred that people were beginning to get anxious. Said man, though, just turned and smirked at the man. His face showed some wrinkles. He had short black hair which was barely hidden beneath the turban. His eyes were closed as he nodded towards the Raikage. Is there something wrong, Raikage Dono? I snarled once more and addressed the Kazekage, this time more controlled. I thought I killed him in the last great shinobi war. Kozetsukai slowly began to laugh in amusement, further irritating the Raikage. At the time, I made you believe you killed me, Raikage Dono. My platoon was retreating, so I need to as well. I used a subtle genjutsu at the time making you believe you had killed me. It was wartime so you didn't stick around to verify the kill. The look on the Raikage's face indicated that he wasn't thrilled about knowing about this development. This man before him was one of Suna's most dangerous shinobi in the war and at the time, I remembered him using those damn wind-oriented genjutsu that sounded and appeared so realistic. Indeed, the Kazekage wasn't pulling any punches here. The Ryok subtly looked at the kunoichi next to his mortal enemy and frowned. Indeed, Gaara wasn't pulling any punches, not against Akatsuki. The Raikage smirked at this and was really excited to see what this group is capable of. He had no doubt that Konoha would provide excellent candidates if the ones in the room is any indication. Seeing that the situation was normal, Gaara continued. Kozetsukai is one of Suna's elite Junin, master of wind and earth ninjutsu. He is a master of the Kusari Gama and so far no one has ever reached his level of expertise in my village. He also is a master of genjutsu like he so explained when engaging Raikage Dono in battle once. Next to him is Jukas, also elite Junin and the strongest fan user in Sunagakur. As you might know, she is a master of wind techniques. She is also very proficient in the art of taijutsu. Upon hearing this, Maeda-gai smirked which wasn't unnoticed by Kakashi who sighed in dismay. Shikaku received the paperwork and moved to a different pile as he now had the rest of information needed to sort out the groups. He already had the information of the Konoha shinobi, so he was now focused on the task ahead while Tsunade began introducing her chosen ones. Author note. I'm not going to waste time introducing the Konoha nins, because all of you know about Kakashi, Guy and Jiraya. After introducing the group formation, the Kage moved on to information about the enemy organization and known weaknesses. Shikaku wasn't focused on the discussion as he was busy processing the information of the chosen ones and how to create 3 cohesive units under one leadership. He already had 3 known leaders for each group. The Kazekage, being a Jinchuriki and a Kage, was the first group's leader. Darui would be leader of group number 2 and Jiraiya was the leader of the third and last group. At first, he wanted to place at least 1 Jinchuriki per team, but he had 4 Jinchuriki and 3 teams, so it wouldn't be possible. Starting with Gaara's group, Shikaku chose a close-range fighter first since Gaara is a long-range fighter using his sand. Ni Yugen, being a close-ranged Kenjutsu fighter, would complement Gaara nicely. She was also extremely ninjutsu capable, so she could move to mid-range as well. Next, he needed a mid-range fighter with knowledge of genjutsu in order to act both as support and front lines if necessary. Hitaki Kakashi was a fine choice. He was considered a jack of all trades and should be able to assist the entire team. The last member of the team, Shikaku's side, had to be Yugito, for reasons not related to a wrong assumption of the woman's skills, but the fact that one of the team needed 2 Jinchuriki. Next was Jiraya's team. Shikaku knew that the pervert wouldn't have it if his student wasn't on his team, so Naruto was the first and obvious choice. The Chunin, despite being the youngest of the group, thus the least experienced, was a force not to be trifled with. Naruto was considered both close and mid-range fighter with excellent knowledge in wind and water techniques, not to mention his bojutsu and vast chakra reserves Kyuubi included. Kozetsukai would fit in nicely with his genjutsu techniques. He would act both as support and front lines like Kakashi in the first group. The only element missing in the second group was long-range support and Jukas was the obvious choice with her fan wind techniques. She was able to produce mass long-range wind techniques with those. Also, being a master of taijutsu, she could shift to close range and aid anyone, a powerful ability and also very rare in the shinobi world. The third group would be filled with the last 4 that weren't chosen so far, Darui, Baki, Kurabi and Guy with Darui being the leader. Kurabi and Guy were close range with Baki supporting with mid-range ninjutsu. Darui was considered an elite Junin of Kumogakur and one of the more skilled shinobi there next to the Raikage himself and the Hachibi Jinchuriki. Kumo actually considered him better than the Nibi Jinchuriki, because of his Kekkei Genkai and his ninjutsu knowledge passed on by the Sandaime Raikage. With the teams formed, Shikaku cleared his throat and looked up, to which Tsunade smirked. Only Shikaku was able to formulate a plan in such little time. After the announcement of the teams and his reason behind it, a heavy silence ruled the room as both the Kazekage and the Raikage kept looking at Shikaku, who was matching their stare with a bored expression. He was already tired of shocking everyone with how fast he was able to gather information and draw a suitable conclusion. No wonder we could not take down the leaf. You are blessed with fine shinobi, Tsunade. Tsunade nodded. With the groups formed, they will have a week to familiarize with one another. In 2 days, we'll begin the training exercises. Now I've prepared rooms for all of you to stay in Konoha for the duration of the training exercises. With everything cleared up, the Kazekage and the Raikage's group were directed by the Anbu to where they would be staying for the week. Jiraya and Naruto had already left the room together towards their intended objective. They had 2 days off after all, so Jiraya planned to have it done by then. If Naruto was strong now, after doing what he and the Yondaime intended, the boy will be unstoppable. With Sasuke standing in front of a cliff, facing the ocean in front of him, Sasuke was busy contemplating the change of events. He had a slight change of outfit, opting for short sleeves for his white kimono. His mind was entirely focused on his brother's stoic visage and the words he had spoken to Sasuke so as to hide the actual truth. Itachi not only had to kill his entire clan because of Konoha, but also took the blame for it becoming a missing nin. In his mind, Konoha not only betrayed his clan but also betrayed Itachi by hiding the truth and declaring Sasuke's brother as a missing nin. As Tobi intended, Sasuke's thirst for revenge was now directed at another entity. Now that you heard the truth, Sasuke-kun, what do you intend to do? Sasuke's eyes was closed as he turned to Tobi and then opened up, showing his version of the Mangenkyu Sharingan. I'll burn Konoha to the ground for what they did to me and my brother. Author note: a slight change of events, Sasuke had awakened his Mangenkyu and now wishes to destroy Konoha. Wonder what Itachi has to say about that. Also, the alliance was formed and the shinobi were handpicked by the 3 Kages. Will they be enough to eliminate the Akatsuki once and for all? If someone asks why I bothered creating OCs for this, I just didn't want to use the already existing names like Tamari, Kankuro, Asuma, Kurenai, Yamato, etc. The reasons are varied. I intend this to be a full-out assault between the alliance and Akatsuki, so supplementary techniques would be next to useless against Kisame, for example. Also, I chose only elite Junin to accompany the Jinchuriki against S-ranked criminals. From Konoha, only Kakashi, Guy and Jiraiya are considered elite. I apologize if the one you idolize wasn't picked: Shikamaru, Sakura, Ino, Choji, Neji, Shino, Hinata, Tenten, none of these were available choices. Check it out next chapter. I want to take this opportunity and appreciate all my listeners for their continuous support of my videos. I'm on the opinion that a YouTube creator should not depend on the watcher's opinions to give his or her point of view of the Naruto world. Making videos of fan fiction is a hobby and it should appease the writer himself or herself first, before moving on to the listeners. However, when a work is rewarded with positive reviews, it gives a more profound purpose to the maker. It gives him or her more drive to move forward. For that, I thank you all. Also, for others who are now listening to this story, please check out my other videos and give me feedback. Thanks for listening. I hope you guys liked it. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like for more what ifs and support the author. See you guys in the next video.